In this episode of Man versus Marriage, it's another episode of Men Talking Marriage, and I'm excited to bring these two guys to the program. One of them, once again, actually, both you guys have been on the program before, so what's up with that? I love it. This is a new format, but you are going to love it too. Be right back. Welcome back to another episode of Man versus Marriage, and to say it like the video said it, now is the time to change your life. I'm your humble servant, the Q Dog, a.k.a. the Q Diggity Dog, in the Moran family studio, and today we are going to have another episode of Men Talking Marriage. So I'm very excited about this, and I look forward to hearing from you, your comments, your input. So make sure that you email Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com. For all of you guys who are using the email, we definitely appreciate it. It's great to be a part of your life. Make sure you go and as well and check out quincymoran.com. Go check out our apparel. That's what you can do to get out into the marketplace, out into the world. It is a walking testimony that your life has been changed, and you can help change another man's life, his marriage, and make positive impacts on people in your world. And that is that's what we're supposed to do. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the guys to the stage. And guys, it is great to have you joining us in this episode, Mr. Jason Scott. Brother Jason, tell the people who you are and tell the people what you do.
All right. Oh, you know what? First of all, Quincy, thank you so much, man, for having me back on. I really appreciate it. We had a wonderful time the last time, so
yes, sir.
This is nothing short of amazing this time. All right,
you.
so who am I?
It is great to have you. It is great for you to be here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I really, when I saw the invite, I'm like, oh, yes, of course. I'm like, if I had something on my schedule, I was taking it off anyway. So.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so we run a relationship business which empower individuals. We empower individuals with actionable strategies, tools, and awareness for developing healthy and fulfilling relationships by understanding and using universal principles, effective communication, emotional intelligence, and mindset shifts. So what that means is we make you aware of some of your shortcomings and how to become better as an individual. And if you become better as an individual, then guess what? Your relationships get better.
That's right.
So we're here to empower and uplift individuals.
Now, wait a minute. In this current culture that we live in, it's all supposed to be about me, and I can do no wrong. So how in the world are you going to show me where I'm screwed up?
Well, I'm going to make you aware. I can never show you because you think you're right.
That's
so
right. That's right.
I just need to make you aware. You know, it's funny. We call it those aha moments. When you're sitting there, speaking to someone, and their head go to the side like, I'm like, yep, got them. Yep, just went, light bulb just went off. That means that they're thinking now. So yeah, but when they come, it's like there's nothing wrong. I had a I had a gentleman sit down and he said, "Well, it's this, and this. Tell me I'm right." I said, "If I tell you if you're right, then does that make your relationship better?"
That's right. Come on, I love it. I love it. It's so true. And I too have had, some guys email me, and the conversations were short because if you're looking for someone to just agree with you, I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah.
And I don't honor the journey that God has me on if I don't give you what I believe to be true. And that's not to say I'm right all the time. I mean, you've already talked to Jeannie, my wife. You know Quincy's not perfect. Jacob has met my wife. Jacob knows that Quincy's not perfect. But yeah, I thought that would be a pretty funny moment to throw in there because there is so much of society based on you could say the phones or whatever the culture is, but I'm glad you're doing the work you do. and appreciate you being on. And next up, another repeat to the program, Mr. Jacob Gomez. Brother Jacob, welcome back to the show.
Brother, appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me on again. Jason, thank you, man. Thank you for what you do as well. I think there's been a culture attack on marriages and couples. I think as far as, I mean, I'm a biblical man, Christian man, and I just think the devil does not want kingdom couples advancing the kingdom. And the best way to do that is to attack communication, which brings division. Because if we're not communicating, that's like that's the first place where we drop the ball. And small things that were not big at all of a sudden are big because we didn't discuss it. A little about myself. My name is Jacob Gomez. Been married with my wife now going on 6 years. And we have a daughter who just made her first time around the sun. And we're excited about that. It's been really great. And to put it in a nutshell, what I believe about marriage is, and this may be as a shocker to a lot of folks just because of the narrative that we hear a lot, is I've said it before prior on the podcast, is that I do not believe that marriage is hard. I don't believe it needs to be. If it's hard, it's because we're making it hard. And it does not need to be that way. A lot of folks would tell us when we were first married, Haley and I, or rather engaged, was, oh, it's marriage is hard, and it just, without even talking about it, it just didn't feel right in my spirit, and come to find out, it didn't feel right in Haley either. And so when we came to talk about it, like, wow, we feel the same way, and it wasn't like disregarding the wisdom. It's just there's this discernment that for whatever reason God put it in us that we're not taking that advice. They said, well, it was going great. They said, well, once you get out of the honeymoon, that first year, I was like, well, we're past a year, and I feel like we're still in the honeymoon. They're like, well, just wait till you get past 5 years. Well, we got past 5 years. I feel like we're still in the honeymoon. Oh, we'll wait till you have a child. Well, we have our child, and we still feel like we're in a honeymoon. And it just clicked, like, why are, when I say you, and speaking in general of these people, why are you casting all these negative thoughts, like hoping for the downfall of our marriage? Is that just so you feel better about your own? Because I'm believing for the best for yours, and I'm believing for the best for mine.
Yes.
And I think what really helps our marriage flourish the way that it is, and like I said, it's the foundation. I was complete in Christ before I ever met my wife. She was complete in Christ before she ever met me. And I don't try to put my wife in the position of that space that is only for God. In other words, I don't put Haley up to the expectations of God or filling that void that only God can fill, because that's unfair for her and that's unfair for me. And everything that we do is out of love for one another. And that's really what I'm bringing to the table. And right now, we just recently started counseling, premarital counseling for my nephew and his soon-to-be wife, his fiance. And I light up when that happens. And
Yes.
he asked me to officiate the wedding. I said, well, I'm not going to do it unless we go through premarital counseling.
That's right.
And so that's where I'm at now. And honestly, I feel like God's calling us to that. So there you go. That was a little bit of a rundown about.
Yeah,
that was excellent.
Yeah, it's. I love having you on the program, both you guys, and I really appreciate, Jacob, your testimony. And I'm going to actually ask both of you to give your background and how you got to where you are. And Jacob, I know you've done that already, but that was probably 50 episodes ago. And so for people that kind of drop in now and listen to the show without going back and like downloading them all, it'll be great, to hear from you. I would love to hear, Jason, I know that you have this as a profession, but talk to us about Jason, the man, and how you got to where you are now. Because I know sometimes for us that are in the podcasting group or in the professional group, it's important for us to remember that we're still actually husbands. And so Jeannie and I have recently started, we kind of, thanks be to God, we revised our check-in on a weekly basis. And before, this will be a little rabbit trail, but it's going somewhere. Before, what we would do is say, okay, we're checking in, and how are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. Or I'm frustrated because last week, we didn't have enough sex, or last week, you said something to me, or whatever the case may be. But it was a very generalized check-in. While our intentions were good, it still gave us the opportunity not to get intentional and specific about what's going on in our life and our relationship. And so through prayer, God gave me this great momentum exercise for our relationship that we brought to the program, and it's looking forward in your relationship for a decade, and identifying what do you want your relationship to look like, and where do you see yourself? What do you want to be thanking each other for? What do you want to thank your spouse for? What do you want your spouse to thank you for after 10 years, after the next decade of your relationship? And then we coupled it with this check-in, and it's like, well, how is Jeannie the woman? How is your faith? How is your health? How's Jeannie the mother? How is Jeannie the daughter? How is Jeannie the friend? How's Jeannie the professional? Because now she's writing books and she's an entrepreneur. And so when you start to get a little more granular and intentional about finding out how the whole of your spouse is, it is game changer for your relationship. And we don't miss. Like I believe we're on a 7-week streak now of getting these check-ins done. We just did one live on the air on Friday night. And I'm telling you, even after 25 years, our relationship is stronger than it's ever been. And being intentional is why. And so I kind of unpack that, because sometimes we don't think about, well, heck, how is Quincy the husband? Because we're busy helping other men in their relationships that we might not think about, oh, hey, I'm still a husband. I'm still a father. I'm actually still, a man, whatever that looks like. So talk to me a little bit. Introduce, everybody to Jason the man and how you got here.
Man, how I got here, right? So I got married young, but I thought I knew everything, right? So after 34 years of marriage, right, there were some wonderful times. Jacob was talking, and he was saying that people say, oh, after so many years, you're going to have this and have that. We went a long time before we really had any issues. But what happened was our inability to communicate. Well, I'll say this. We were communicating to the best of our ability. We just didn't know how to really communicate, right? I could say what I needed to say, and she needed to receive it the way that I was giving it. But that's not how communication goes. You only receive it on your level of understanding.
Right.
So we had to learn that dynamics. And that was the biggest thing that I had to do, because I said something based on, the way that I give it. And I would assume that she should receive it the way that I gave it, but that wasn't the case. And that created a rift over time. So you add kids. Kids were wonderful, right? But they have their place, right? So we raised the kids. We did all these other things. And then we also added an extra stress, which, Quincy, I know we homeschool. And that was an added stress. I'm out of the house. I come back. The rest of the family are all, together. It's like they're the family, and I'm sitting on the outside. So, like I said, I felt like I was a stranger in my own house, right? I'm supposed to be the man. I'm supposed to be leading. So that created a rift, right? So I had to do some soul searching to find myself. Yeah, I had no problems providing and taking care of the kids and things, but I felt lost in my footing. Like, who was I? Who was Jason as a person? So again, I had to develop. I had to reevaluate who Jason really was. So I read, I meditated, I prayed. I went inward to find out who Jason was and what Jason actually wanted. Not what my family wanted me to have, like Jacob mentioned earlier. People tell you, oh, you want this, you want that. No, I don't want that. That's what you want. And I'm glad that you care enough about me, but what do I really want? So I had to figure out what I really wanted. And that's what I started working towards. Some things that I didn't like, right? One of the big things in the family was, having separate bank accounts. I just thought that was the craziest thing. I don't want to participate in that. So that wasn't for me, right? So I had to find the things that I really wanted to do. And then once I started saying that, then I had to express that, right? I had to be able to deliver it to Tina Marie so she could actually receive it the way that I was giving it. So I had to learn to communicate. She had to listen. She had to tell it back to me to make sure that that's what I was trying to say. And then once we got over that hurdle, it went a lot better. But regardless to how many years and what we've gone through, we always had to evolve, right? We started out with no kids. We bought a house. We had kids. My mother moved in with us. We had a lot of responsibilities at a young age. No problem. We still just skated along. And people always came to us for advice and things of that nature. Discarded it, didn't pay any attention to it. We were just living life doing what we were supposed to, right? So like I said, in that time, I kind of lost myself. We both lost ourselves because Tina did as a mother as well. But who do you go talk to as a man? Because you're supposed to be strong. So,
Right.
yeah. So how do you go to, hey, you know what? I'm having a problem. I don't feel real manly. I don't even know how that conversation goes, but
Yeah.
I had no one to really have it with, but I had to have it with me and God. So once I did that, I just was able to find myself internally.
Yeah, that I love the way that you put that, and I'm a firm believer that what if we go inward and we start to look at our wants, our needs, and desires, and if they're filtered through the heart of God, then we will naturally begin to see what we are called to. And there are instances, or there are things along the way that God utilizes in our journey in order to facilitate what we are called to do. And so I know some of my testimony is extremely helpful to some of the people that I come in contact with relative to this program and what we talk about. And I say that because I listen to what Jacob says about marriage not being hard. And look, marriage was hard for Jeannie and I for quite a while. And so I think what people do is they kind of take their disappointment and project it on you because they're disappointed with where they're at, but they also think they're protecting you from what is to come. But in my mind, I'm looking at it and going, that's your testimony, bro. Jacob, that's your testimony. That's what you're going to walk out. That's what you are going to teach in this new era of marriage and ministry. So, just taking that all in. Jason, I appreciate you talking about that, and never intend on kind of catching anybody off guard.
No, I don't feel that way. Listen, one thing about men, we have to talk about these things because we don't, and we don't have an outlet, right? So,
Right.
It's funny, Jacob was saying that they needed to be two godly people coming together. I went to church on a date with my wife at the time, right? So I was like, oh, this is kind of like perfect. I mean, I was not really in the church, but I went. She's like, you want to go to church? I was like, yeah. I mean, I think that would be a perfect date, right? And it turned out to be. And I'm like, this was the person and the place I need to be. So God knows where you need to be. You just have to act upon it.
That's right. That's such a good word. Jacob, if you would, take a few minutes and give your background and testimony about how you got to this moment. I mean, it's a great story. And now with you having a daughter after those sets of challenges, there's so much good to talk about. But, tell our listeners a little bit about you and how you got here.
In short, I gave my life to the Lord in the jail cell after many mistakes. Just small, dumb stuff, nothing big, just a lot of just dumb in and outers. And eventually I just got tired of it and said, God, I've tried to live my life and I don't know how to live it. So here it is, it's yours. And whenever I came out, I told my sister, just as anxious as I was to get out, I'm even more anxious to be baptized. And she started crying because while I was in there, she prayed, and she hadn't prayed in a long time. And she said, Lord, if you'll help my brother out just one more time and get him out of this, then, and he gives his life to you, I too will give my life to you. And so whenever I told her those words that I was, just anxious to be baptized, she began crying because she knew that the Lord had heard.
Mm.
And that was about 8 years ago now. And I haven't looked back. It's as simple as I tried to be a good man and I didn't know how to do it. I couldn't do it. And that doesn't mean that I walk in self-righteousness, because I know if there's any righteousness in me, it's because of Christ in me. And um, so that just led me down chasing the Lord. And one day my friend invited me to this church and I decided to go, and I saw, well, let me back up. 3 months prior to going to this church, I had had a dream. And in this dream, I saw this woman center stage, and she had a lip ring. And so I went to the center stage, and actually she was laying down, and I put my hand out, and I helped her up because she was laying down. And that's when I noticed she had a lip ring, and she was smiling. She had this huge smile on her face, but she was covered in blood. And and there was so much more to it. But long story short, uh 3 months later, I jotted it down, and God also told me in that dream, don't overlook the children, because I'm going to use the children just as much as the adults. And so, okay, I just jotted that down, and I record my dreams when I believe that they're godly dreams, and I date them. Well, 3 months later, I go to this church, and they're blowing the shofars out on stage, and pastor jokingly says, "Hey, that thing ain't gonna pop out of your lip whenever you blow that horn, is it?" And I was like, "Is she having a lip ring?" And sure enough, there's this woman center stage, and she has a lip ring, and it's on the same side as if in my dream. And suddenly, I just feel this weight come on me, and my whole body gets hot, almost like I was carrying a 50-pound weight, and I just kind of sank into the chair. And I was like, "Whoa!" And I just believe I had to tell this woman about this dream that I had. And it was nothing like, oh, I believe she's my wife, or it was just, I just believe I had to tell this woman about the dream that I had. Like, it was a word for her. Well, the whole service goes by, and I never got the green light to go speak to her. Um, and then she gets up and she goes, talks to this man up front who was a prophet, and he begins to prophesy over her and says, "You've been asking the Lord to speak to you, and I see the Holy Spirit coming to you quickly to deliver you a message." And I was like, wow, she has no idea how soon. So, and it makes sense, because I'm like, God had to till the ground before he plants the seed. And so she goes back to her seat, and all of a sudden, boom, I have the green light. So boom, I took off, and I go, like I said, church is out, and we're like the last few people in there. So I go talk to her, and I just tell her, "Hey, my name's Jacob. I had this dream. I believe I need to tell you." And if you figured it out by now, this is Haley, who I'm my now wife. Which at the time I was not saying, "Okay, this is my wife." I just sincerely believe I just had a word for this woman. And so I tell her the dream, and she's like, "Wow, that's me." Um, so if I went through, I'm not going to, but if I went through the whole explanation, that dream that I had was her testimony. So the whole dream lays out the testimony of my wife and this woman who was rejoicing, not because of what she went through, but because of what God pulled her through, pulled her out
Wow.
of, and the transformation in her life. And I told her, I believe it's time to start sharing your testimony. And she was just, it's like, wow, yeah, like she had just got that word that it's time for her to be vocal about how God has redeemed her. And we just became best friends after that, and we just chasing the Lord together. Wasn't thinking like this is my wife to be, but it just happened that way. And it was just hitting one day like, who else do you want? Like, this is my best friend. We do everything together. And I proposed to her, and here we are. I literally married the woman of my dreams. And the the other thing is that God was speaking to Haley in twos, and he gave me that dream 2 days after her birthday. So that was another thing. Like, how much more evidence do you need? And so I just know that God had knitted us together, and we are a three-stranded cord, um, because the Lord has woven us together. And I believe it's because of Christ as our foundation, and really listening to the Holy Spirit throughout our marriage, that has really checked us. I mean, a simple example could be, and I'm giving practical examples. One day, Haley does most of the cooking. That's not because, oh, that's her job to do. It just, we naturally flow in what we're good at, and we don't try to. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I guess men could understand. You wouldn't make a quarterback be a lineman, but that doesn't mean,
Yeah.
I don't get down on the grill and make some steaks and every now and then and whatnot. It's just we flow in what we're good at, and we set each other up for success. And everything that we do is out of love, not out of an agreement. And so here we are now, several years later, and getting back to that practical example is Haley was always making my plate. And one day she decided it wasn't her, and she was about to make my plate. And the Holy Spirit spoke to her and said, "Don't make his plate today." And so Haley sat down, and she was like, "Oh, okay." So Haley sat down. She didn't say anything to me. She just sat down with her plate. And and I looked at her and I was offended. And the Holy Spirit immediately checked me, and he said, "Do you feel that you have the right and privilege for her to make your plate?" Like you, and it was a check, like oh, you were just. In other words, there was pride that needed to come out of me, and I just immediately repented. I said, "Lord, forgive me." Mind you, Haley and I did not speak, but who was counseling us during that? The Holy Spirit was. And this is our day-to-day life. So I got up, I made my plate, I told Haley what had happened, and she's like, "Wow, the Holy Spirit literally told me not to make your plate today." And it's because he was sifting something out of me that I didn't know was there, but needed to come out. And that is our life. That is our practical life day to day. And when I teach my nephew, um, is I teach him, how I see the Lord in the headlines, how I see the Lord in nature when we go for a walk. 'Cause like you see those trees waving, in the breeze. I see that as let all of creation praise the Lord. I see those as branches waving, praising God. I talk to him how I see the Lord. That's also Romans 1, right? All of creation testifies of God, that so that no one has an excuse. All of creation points to Christ. I mean, and and I also talk about inwardly how we hear the Lord speak. And one of the things that we went through recently is that I gave that example, and in doing things. Another example I can give is one day I was coming home from work and I had this overwhelming urge to go get Haley flowers. Overwhelming. I just had to, and I couldn't shake it. I couldn't. It was a very overwhelming uh, feeling sensation. I was like, all right, I gotta go. I gotta go get Haley flowers. I went to the first store, couldn't find them. So the ones that I liked, like, oh, no, these aren't it. So I went to the second one. Long story short, I come home with the flowers, and I hand Haley the flowers, and she just begins crying. She had the hardest day
Mm.
at work, and this is prior to Rosalie being born. But she had the toughest day, and I was like, yeah, the Lord told me to give you these flowers today. That is how our marriage works, is that it's
Yes.
not just us two, it's literally three-stranded cord. Ecclesiastes 4:12. um, what else could I tell you about me is that when I say marriage isn't hard, that doesn't mean that life isn't hard.
That's right.
Life, we're expected to come through hard circumstances in life, and rather than letting those circumstances come in between you and your spouse as a wedge and separating y'all, what I believe and what we're teaching is to teach couples, specifically who we're teaching now is my nephew and his fiance, how to be a team and
Mm-hmm.
conquer those situations, those difficult
Yes.
situations in
Yep.
life together, and be a team, and rather than letting those things come between y'all. So I'm not saying life is easy. I'm saying, and even in teamship, and there could be situations, but yeah, do we have disagreements? We do. But those, I'm being genuine. The the disagreements last probably about 60 seconds, and we don't wait. We hash them out right then and there,
Yes.
immediately. So, and if there's anything, if I heard something wrong, Jason, you said, talking about words and or definitions of words, something along that line. And sometimes we hear something, it's because of our personal filter. Like I could
Hmm.
say, um, I don't know, some that I don't know, something that's on my mind right now was sell. Okay, I'm gonna sell this to you, but you may see it as a sell, but I see it as serving you. So
Right.
there's a semantics to theirs, because, or if I say that, that annoys me. Well, what do you mean by annoy? Can you help me understand? How does that annoy you? And we don't get offended. And one thing is, if Haley tells me something and immediately offense rises up real fast, I realize, hold on, don't respond. There might be truth to that. How do I know that? Because I was quick to react.
Hmm.
Something rose up in me, and so I need to self-reflect on that and know that I can't change my wife and she can't change me. However, what I do have control is me. And I know by the way that I live my life reflects her. Another practical thing I could say is, I was always complaining about eating healthy. I wanted to eat healthy. I wanted to get in shape. And eventually my wife said, Jacob, I'm tired of you complaining. Just just do it.
I just going to say that. Just do it.
Just
And
do it.
yeah, and I'll end on this one, on this is, and I said, I was like, wow, you're right. So immediately I stopped complaining. I just uh I would eat my portions, and I would say no to things I didn't want to eat, but I just started working out. And without saying anything to my wife, without giving her looks, loving her the same, I would just kept doing what I was doing, and eventually she followed. She started eating healthy. She started working out, and lead by example. If you and
That's
it's
right.
I didn't do that to change her. I did that to make me better.
All right.
And I'll end on that. But that's pretty much, that's how we live our marriage.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, whether it's the extended version or the short version, your testimony about how you met Haley and about your relationship and about your marriage does not get old. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Jason, I appreciate you talking about where you started and what brought you here. And I think it's valuable. It's extremely valuable for the guys around the world listening to this show just to hear regular guys talk about their relationship and their experience, because we can get to the point sometimes where we feel isolated, like we're the only one going through something.
Yeah.
And so I think it's wonderful. It's been very helpful to me to just share my testimony, but people listen to me all the time on this program. And so having guys like you come on this program, you're regular guys like I am. It doesn't mean that you're not doing extraordinary things, but we're guys.
Right.
And so, there's been, I think, there's been, quite an assault on masculinity and talking about it being toxic, which I think rather it could be misguided, or, there's been a rise forcing women to think they have to think or act a certain way in order to meet the feminist idea. And I think those agendas, while with balance can be healthy,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of take and pit men and women against each other in relationships, like we are competing against one another. And so I wonder, just in y'all's experience, Jason, I'll go to you first.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, like Jacob said, because I used to tell Jeannie all the time, hey, let's not forget we're home team. We're on the same team. So I don't know if anything comes to mind, but if there were some challenges where you and maybe Tina Marie, maybe you forgot you were on the same team, and whether it's about finances, which you talked a little bit about, whether it's about sex or parenting or the day to day, how do you? Because like we're talking here, you can only you can really only control what you can control, which is your own attitude, your own actions. But what advice could you, like if you went back 15 years, 20 years, because you've been married 34, right?
Yep.
If you went back to Jason Scott 35 years ago,
Ooh, okay.
as preparing to get married, what would you tell yourself about looking at your relationship and building yourself to be a great team member, and then working on having the grace to communicate to your wife that you are on the same team?
I would tell myself to grow, learn who you are and grow, study, because I came out of a bubble, right? I came out of my family upbringing. So I brought that to the relationship, and she brought that to the relationship as well. Right. Then we had to unravel all that mess so we can get back to the core of us, right? Because that's all we knew. So if I could find out who I was early, we wouldn't have to go through those, misunderstandings and things of that nature. Listen, I have a very strong wife, which is great. And I always joke about it. I say, when I need something to be taken care of, I call my wife. I say, baby, look, I need you to take care of this, right? So, because I don't, because once I'm done with you, I'm done with you. But my wife will just like, she'll just fight for the family tooth and nail. I'm more quiet. I'm more reserved, right? But people always think that I'm the one that I'm the nice one. I'm more like the cutthroat one, right? So I'm the one that says, baby, we're done with this. But then she'll go out and try to make it right, or explain the position. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to do that. But that's something now. I said, well, does that make it right? No, it was probably wrong to be like that, right? But that was protection, right? That was a wall that I was putting up. So I had to learn how to communicate, right? It's not just my way, right? Not just because I'm the man, I mean I'm always right. So I have to just be able to have that conversation and be open, like Jacob said, like. When your wife says something and it wells up in you and you want to fight back and you go, I'm not like, well, I could be like that, maybe, but again, that's a sign of maturity, right? It's a sign of saying that maybe I need to take a look at that, because there's always some truth in when someone says about you, right? You don't have to believe everything, but there may be some truth in it. So, my wife said, you're this, you're that. And I'm like, no, I am not like that. And then I sit back and think about it. I go, yeah, I did do that. And it does come across like that.
Right.
But then that's, like I said, that's a hard pill to swallow, because that's telling me that I'm wrong in some form or fashion. So I would tell myself to grow early, learn who I am and what I really want. Not what society says, because society says I should have, to be successful, I would be married, have a couple kids and a house, and retire after 40 years of work. That's it. I mean, that's what society says. But does that really make me happy? No, not really. I want to do my own thing the way I want to do it. I want to live my life, right? So
that's right.
I had to find that out. And that's what I would tell myself. Explore, find out what you want, and just go after it.
Yes, sir. I think that is excellent advice, and something that you touched on that I want to speak to the men and the women that listen to this program, and that is the burden of, which to me it's a privilege of being a leader and what that looks like, because being a leader can sort of be misconstrued, like you have to walk around and tell everybody you're the leader. You have to walk around and tell everybody what to do. You have to walk around and you have to know all the answers. You have to, and these are things like you typically do what you see, as opposed to do what people tell you. Now, I can tell you this, my favorite football coach in history retired last season, Nick Saban. I'll tell you this, he is one of the greatest leaders in history, and the way he coaches football or coached football at the University of Alabama is certainly not the way he husbanded at home. And so here's the thing when it comes to being a leader. Number one, if you have to tell everybody you're the leader, you're not the leader. Number two, there's a lot of value in deferring. And what do I mean by deferring? Defer to one another's strengths. And one of the best things that the Lord ever taught me about leading is this: the best advice you can give anyone, Quincy, is to be the example. And I said, Lord, that is rough, but that is true. And I can honor that. And so I used to chase people down to give them advice, and they would run even farther from me. And then on top of that, if I caught them, they wouldn't take the advice. And so, when it comes to leadership, there's a lot of value in someone who realizes the greatness in someone else and then defers to that strength so they get challenged and can grow in that area. And I don't just take that approach at work. I employ that approach at home. I employ that approach in my walk with Christ, because where I'm weak, he's made strong. And we as a body in our home have the opportunity to do that as well. And they're like us, Jeannie and I having 8 kids, and her doing some homeschooling and public school and sports with the kids, and etc. She had quite a crazy calendar. And so I work outside of the home, and this is a few years ago, and I had a friend call me and say, hey, can you guys do this on Tuesday of next week? I said, look, I'm good with it, but you need to call Jeannie and check the calendar. And he's like, why do I need to call her? Like, aren't you in charge? And I was like, listen, I have enough responsibility running my professional calendar. Jeannie runs our household calendar, and I don't want anything to do with that. That is her strength. It's her area of expertise. She's running the calendar for 9 people. And I'm not going to just, in my younger days, I would throw something in there, but we learned the value of deferring to each other's strengths. And so we talk about it now, and she works on where it can be fit into the calendar. And it was very tough for him, because he didn't feel like I was the leader of my home, because I wouldn't just tell Jeannie what we're going to do. And for me, that's just misguided thoughts and a lack of maturity.
Yeah.
Because I could tell him all about how I didn't think he was the leader in his home based on how he rocked his life. But our relationships were markedly different than his relationship. And so I think I'm glad that you brought up sort of the burden of being the leader, and what that looks like, and how that can be a struggle, how that can be a struggle in a relationship until you grow, until you develop, until you learn about deferring to one another's strengths, etc. So, you said it really well about what you would talk to yourself about.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I had a gentleman once, kind of like you. He said, "Hey man, who runs your household?" And I said to him, one thing you can't shake me on is my manhood. I said, who I am is who I am. Now, I told you that my wife makes that decision, and that's where it's in. Don't make me less than a man because she makes that decision, but you can't shame me into something else. I said, because I'm a real man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. And there are people who, will sometimes take scripture and kind of bend it and confuse it. I don't remember what the scripture is, but in one of our last shows, Jacob had brought it out. I wish I had looked it up. I wish I had it written down in this current notebook, but where he talked about the role of men and women in marriage, and how I believe the Apostle Paul talked about it. It was really well written, of course, being written in the Bible. But Jacob, Just coming to you real quick. What is it? What is it right now? Like, what would you go back and tell yourself? You guys been married 8 years?
Going on 6.
Oh, excuse me, 6 years.
Going on 6.
So
Yeah,
what?
you're thinking about your 8. You're thinking about your 8 kids.
I could be. They are always on my mind. You know, before we talk about the testimony of your beautiful daughter who was born and just turned 1, what, if anything, would you go back and talk to yourself about, like, say, 7 years ago?
7 years ago. You know what? It's exactly what I heard during pre-marriage counseling with our pastor. And what he told me was, and he looked me dead in the eye, and with life in his eyes, I should say, and he said, a woman has no problem submitting to a man so long as she knows that he has her interests and their children's interests above his very own.
Hmm.
I carry that and I share that because out of everything, and if I can sum it up, that's the foundation. When you talk of submission, and I believe that was Izzy who mentioned last podcast that it's not that a woman is submitted to you because she has a lesser value that she's offering to the
Right.
table, but rather you have a mission and she has a mission within that mission, a
That's right.
submission. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. So I remembered that
Yeah.
too. Uh, if I mean, really, it's that I believe by the grace of God that I was given those words prior to being married, and knowing that if I'm making a decision on behalf of our marriage, it's with them in mind
Mm-hmm.
and holding their best interests even above my very own, because a man lays down his life for his family, for his wife, and just as Christ laid down his life for the church, and we forget
Right.
that. You're the first in that scripture you're speaking of. I want to say it was Galatians 5. There's so many, and also in Ephesians, but um, there's just so many. But the verse that in particular, that's one line that women obey your husbands, and the rest is all to the husband, and
Mm-hmm.
it's about the husband laying down his life. And Jason, you said one thing I felt strongly. I connected with you when you said, as a man, as a leader in the house, like who you got all this pressure on you. And one thing that came to mind, which I said before, is who does the lion lean on?
Yeah.
Who does the lion lean on? And honestly, the lion leans on the lioness. It's beautiful, and all of creation really teaches us how to live our lives if we would just open up our eyes. And God teaches us. He teaches us how we should live kingdom mindset. And when it comes to there's certain things when I put my foot down about certain things, and I've done it maybe not even a handful of times where I said no, we're gonna do this, and Haley knows when that like again we've been married 6 years, and I haven't done that not even 5 times, and because and she knows like whenever I make a decision on something, okay, this is on behalf of the family, and it's very important, and we discuss it. It's not like um, I'll give you a simple example. It had to do with passwords, and I was like, no, we're not going to use that password. We're going to use this password. And it was like, we're going to use a different one. And she was like, okay. And then that was that. I mean, that's a very simple, but most of the time, Haley's calling the shots, and we discuss it. Uh, what I mean, I'm just thinking like, what else could I give someone here that they need to hear is don't let your children come between you. Don't stick
Yes.
together for the sake of the children, because I don't want to say you it's you and your spouse against the children. I want to say that the children don't so much listen to what you say, they do what you do.
That's right.
And if you want your children to experience love, you must first, they get that love out of the overflow between you and your spouse. It overflows to them. And that naturally comes into play. Well, by the way, Haley and I have our foundation set up and the way that we love Rosalie, I know that she can say who we are based on how we are without us telling her or who we are. In other words, we tell our children who we are by the way we live our lives.
That's right.
And they are a reflection of us, like it or not. That doesn't mean my identity is tied to my children, because by all means, you could raise children up the best way and all of a sudden they run amok. But you know that you've planned, that was me, I mean, and I didn't necessarily have the best coming up. However, there were enough good seeds planted in me that when I was in that jail cell, I know who to turn to.
Right.
And so yeah, I would say parents defending children, and I'm when I'm speaking of parents defending children and letting children get in between you, if there's a healthy dynamic between the relationship between husband and wife, what I'm saying is y'all do parenthood as a team. Don't, because it just gets real toxic really fast because I've seen it. And I don't have to live through those experiences in order to teach them. In other words, Jesus didn't have to sin to teach you how to walk in righteousness.
Word.
He sat with sinners yet without sin. So what I'm saying is, and other things that I've been through, you don't have to go through what I went through in order to be where I'm at, or even achieve even greater, because that's the hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot of,
there you go.
No, there's a lot of so much that little segment there is packed full. And I'm gonna ask Jason in just a minute to talk about husbands and wives and children. In what he sees as he's talking to people about. I mean, because he's here to build a legendary relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I'll ask you to speak on that in just a minute, because I believe it's extremely important. But one thing I definitely want to talk about is, like, Jacob, when you're talking about putting your foot down, we have been through some really challenging times with our adult children. And, just the way that Jeannie and I have developed our relationship, there are times like not that I had to school her on anything, but I just taught her about how we are naturally wired. Am I talking about every woman and every man in the world? No, but her and I know us well. And so there were some situations that happened with our children, and it was heartbreaking to her. And she was filled with emotions, which naturally she would be. And I said, honey, listen, I want to talk you through this situation. And I said, what we're going to do in this particular situation is we are going to redirect our energy to the people, to the children in our life that want our time, our affection, and our energy. And I said, look, this is very difficult to do, but here's the beauty of how we're kind of created differently. You are a more emotional creature and you balance me. I am more of a logical creature and I balance you. I said, in this one, I'm going to help lead the family through this out of a place of logic. It doesn't mean I don't have any emotions attached to this situation, but what it means is that allow the strength that God has given me to help lead us through this. Because if we both react emotionally, we could lose this relationship with our child permanently. And so that's not even something that I knew until God downloaded it in me in that moment. So I really can't even take credit for that. And I can't tell you how many times we've had to revisit that conversation, and now she will come to me and she'll say, you know what? Here is what I'm going to do. And it's like, God, you are so good. It's not like God doesn't know how it feels to have a wayward child. I mean, come on. Somebody give me an amen.
Come on now.
But that is one of those things that I have found that can really, because there's sometimes when I'm being too logical or rigid or concrete, and I need her to soften me up in the position where I'm at with emotion and help me look at this through my heart rather than through my logical lens. And so, you kind of laid out a lot there, Jacob. So you're wise beyond your years.
Sure.
But so thank you for bringing that part up. And guys, I hope that you're hearing the heart of these testimonies and this wisdom that you're getting. And again, Jason, Jacob, thank you guys for being here, man. Men. But Jason, maybe you could talk for a minute, because I'm sure you and Miss Tina Marie, you guys work with this, but there are times where parents it may be out of a good place, but they focus all their energy and attention and deposit love and relationship into their child account and forget that their marriage bank account is empty. And when the child moves out or moves on, they go to make a withdrawal from their marriage bank account, and there's no funds.
There's nothing there.
That's right.
Yep. I want to say one thing. I want to go back to what Jacob said about making a decision and standing firm on it. And I love that. And here's the thing. You make a decision, and regardless to how it turns out, you never go against the decision that you made, because you made it in the best interest of the family. Now, sometimes the decisions we make can sometimes go sideways.
That's right.
As a family, this is what we've done, and I think this has served us well. We didn't make it an issue if it didn't work out the way we had planned it to work out.
Wow, it's a good word.
Yeah. So, we made decisions. Did they all work out? No. Like we made a decision to homeschool. It worked out, but it became a problem as well. But I didn't fault anyone based on the decision, because we made it for the family as a whole. Now, we had to work through the things that we needed to work through, but we never brought out, well, it was your reason, it was your decision to to homeschool, not mine. We never that, regardless of what it was. When Tina Marie said, well, I think you should quit and start your own business, and things were rough at times from time to time, we never uttered any words about, well, it was your reason, it was your decision to do this. So, you make a decision for the family, because you're doing it for the best, because you're doing it for the family, right? You're doing it to put the family first.
Jason, let me ask you a question, because that's not a nugget. I don't know what's bigger than a nugget, but that's a big deal, what you just said. But how do you not beat yourself up over that?
About a decision that went sideways?
Yeah, because I'll just transparently, there are things that, I've made a decision where I felt like it was right. Jeannie, trust me. But I kick my own self in the balls over and over again about it, and she doesn't hold me responsible for the decision.
Yep.
So for guys out there that are like me and they sometimes beat themselves up too much.
Oh, I shot myself in the foot many times. Yeah. On decisions. But here's the thing, right? To know that someone loves you, and this is beyond, God. I'm just talking about my wife right now.
Yes.
Just love me beyond the mistakes that we made, and not really throw it up in my face. Not saying that we wouldn't be in this tough financial bind if you had not made this decision. We would not be here with the kids had you not done this, or you made the decision to do this. No matter what it was, if we agreed to it, and then when she made decisions, I never brought it up, whether I disagree with it or not. If she came up with a thing that was best for the family that I didn't necessarily see, but I respected her, and a lot of her stuff worked out better than the stuff that I came up with. When it didn't, I didn't say anything. But here it is, like when you're kicking yourself and you're down and you're feeling like, man, I done screwed the family over. for making this decision. She always said, baby, don't worry about it. We got this. God got us. We don't have to worry about this. This is one decision. We're not here just on one decision. I got you. I love you. I trust you. Don't worry about it. God's gonna hold us, and we're good. And that's how I got through it. Quincy, that I mean, really, because like as a man, like, come on, you made a decision, and it was tough. Like, again, who do I go to? I can't go to my wife like, baby, I really screwed up, but she's there like, look, we still good. Okay, cool. Because she know that we have more decisions to make.
That's right.
So,
well,
yeah.
And I appreciate you both for talking about this, because I just had an aha moment, and I feel like the Lord is like, hey, when it comes to those decisions, why don't you apply what I taught you about logic and emotion? Because obviously if you're kicking yourself over and over again, you're in your emotions about it.
Yeah.
So why don't you look at it from a more logical standpoint, and then get over it and move on? And
or get
like that.
Get through it, not necessarily get over it, because a lot of times when we decide to get over it, we're sweeping it under the rug.
That's a good
word. But when we get through it, because through every challenge, there's a lesson to be learned. And if we don't learn the lesson, we're going to constantly repeat it. So as we go through this, and emotions, because we are emotional beings,
That's right.
Well, we talk about that in the law of gender. So we have the feminine and the masculine side, and we have to have a balance within ourselves, not gender roles, but within ourselves.
Right.
So if we're finding ourselves just out of balance, we as individuals need to find that balance within us. And if we can do that, then that's how we work through it. But if we strong logically, but we not so much emotional, then we have to find, okay, where's the happy medium here? Where do I need?
Right.
When do I need to be stronger in my emotions versus my logic? So,
that's right.
And that's just, again, that's within us to do, and it's okay. But I always tell people, let's not try to get through things so much, but let's learn the lessons in the things that has come upon us.
Well, thank you for coaching me up there. That was a great word. That was a great word. Don't get over it. Get through it. I really.
Man, Jason, I just to jump in here, guys. Same page, same absolute page. When Haley and I make decisions together, that's just that. They're our decision, and we made it together. Unified. We talked about it. We discussed it. Then we made a decision. Not her or I. We made a decision. That's a decision we made. And as far as getting over us, okay, maybe it was the wrong decision. Well, perspective. We're learning something. We learned something. We're getting through this, and once we get through this, then we're moving on. So perspective is always key, especially when it comes to discussing a situation. I have to shift out of my own perspective into my wife's perspective. Okay, if I was in her shoes, hearing that the way I said it, or receiving this situation and circumstance, then how would I have perceived it? Okay, I can understand why she heard it that way, but that's not the way that I meant it. And vice versa, she does the same with me. Okay, right? And then once you figure that out and you understand each other, then that doesn't mean, oh, okay, we were wrong. Don't try to split the blame. Rather, just acknowledge where you were wrong. You don't have to split the blame. Just acknowledge, yeah, I was wrong here. Don't try to make yourself feel better by saying, oh yeah, we were both wrong.
Right.
Just say I was wrong and admit where you were wrong. And I'm so sorry about that. Genuinely mean it. Like don't just, there's just so many things like that a small thing could blow up into a big argument. But when you look at when you zoom out, it was such a small thing. Like, why are you even, this argument is not worth our marriage.
That's right.
So look, there's a principle about communication, and you can discuss that. But that miscommunication in that area, it is important. Don't overlook that. However, it's not worth that disagreement, or that miscommunication in that area is not worth a divorce or y'all's marriage. So, and another thing that I would put on that, guys, is be humble enough. If, and I've mentioned this before, and I want to mention this again, is if God of creation was humble enough, and that's my baby girl blink pulling
I
on the
love it.
blinds behind me,
I love
and
it.
she's like, "Get in here, Dad! It's time to cut it."
Enough of that
But
man
if,
stuff.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So if God of creation humbled himself to become a man, right, and to wash the feet of his creation, even the one to betray him, then surely you, man, can humble yourself to wash dishes.
That's right.
And I say that because my wife's probably washed. I mean, she's always cooking, always baking, taking care of us, changing diapers. And yes, I go home. I mean, I go to work and then I come home. She's probably washed dishes about at least twice before I got home. It's nothing for me to wash dishes once.
There you go.
And I'm trying to help out too in the home as well. I mean, she takes a shower and I'm watching our baby girl for about 20 minutes and chasing her. She's crawling all over the place. And I'm like, help, get out already. But she
Yeah,
does that all day.
that's
And
right.
that's just one baby girl. We ain't got 8 yet. We got 11 more to go.
Come on, baby. Bring it on. I love it.
Hey,
Genesis 128. Get after it.
It's funny. I wanted a lot too, and then after a couple, I'm like, I am good. I am good.
You got to know your
That's it.
calling, brother.
And while we're talking on baby making, I want to mention this too for the guys. I mean, really for both spouses, honestly. When it comes to sex, if there's a position that your spouse is uncomfortable with, don't
Hmm.
make them do that because they're convicted in that area for whatever reason it may be. Don't force them to sear their own conscience of what they're not comfortable doing just so you can be pleased.
Yep.
Like, cause then you're doing that out of selfish desires rather than why do I want to do anything that we're not both in it on? Because there's
Hmm.
no unity there. It's only leaning one side. And anything like as far as just making love, that comes out, that is just that. That's making love. Like I get nothing out of it if my wife isn't enjoying
That's
it or
right.
vice versa, right? So
100%.
why why try to force your spouse to do something they're not comfortable doing? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it comes by that. And there's as far as like laying your life down means whenever you don't feel like I don't see that as a sexual thing. I see that as, for instance, laying my life down is washing the dishes, throwing the trash. When my wife is having a hard day, and I clean up the house, and 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 she needed it. Why? The Lord
Right.
told me, hey, you need to do a little more than you usually do today. She needs it. And you know what? Here's a great one, and I'll leave it on this promise, man. Is that when when Haley had just had Rosalie and I was up taking care of her. Haley and I was just thinking, it came to me in the showers. It's like I'm working so hard on taking care of our baby girl, and I believe like my wife isn't doing enough. And the Lord, He checked me. He immediately checked me, and the way He talked to me is by Scripture. He says, "You remember the woman with the penny, you know, for lack of a better term. She only gave pretty much a penny compared to what everybody else gave when they were giving their gifts. And the
Yep.
Lord says she gave more than anyone else. And it wasn't the amount wasn't as much as everything, but she gave everything she had.
Hmm.
He says she gave more than anyone else because everyone else gave out of their abundance. She gave out of
Yeah.
her lack. Your wife is giving everything she's got, and she's giving more than you. And I
Hmm.
immediately broke down and I started crying. And it's like, Lord, forgive me. My wife went through 7 days of a tough labor leading up to labor and giving birth, which was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. When our baby girl came out of the water and the blood came, and I was reminded of, you know, you must be born again. Because when Jesus was pierced on the cross, what came out of him? The blood and the water. And I was reminded of you must be born again. And then our daughter spent a week in an NICU. We both spent 2 weeks not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
But God had conditioned me to be able to endure that, to be able to step up and to stay up with my daughter in the hospital. And he gave me grace. He empowered me. And then, my wife's, pumping is hard, man. They say first off, when a woman gives birth, it's equivalent to running a marathon. That's not to put on the 7 days of no sleep and then add another week onto that,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so me stepping up after that and being at home, and then my wife, she's trying to catch up on her sleep. She's trying to recover and everything else. And it wasn't, I never held it wasn't like, I've never been nasty to my wife or nothing. It was just inwardly like a thought that would occur.
Sure.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was a snake. And we don't talk to snakes. And I acknowledge, like, wow, here's this snake putting these thoughts in my head when I don't think of my wife like that. And the Lord, by his grace, gave me that word of correction that, okay, here, in other words, here you are putting $1,000 worth of time towards taking care of your wife and your daughter, and you think your wife's only putting in a penny worth of her time, and you're like, you don't realize that she's giving out of her lack. She's giving everything, and you still have more to give.
Yes.
So yes, sometimes we need to step up. It's not always 50-50. Sometimes you got to give. Sometimes it's always 100 of everything that you got, and sometimes your 100 looks like more than your spouse's 100. But know that you're both giving everything you have, and just remember that.
And I'll say, just to piggyback off of that, we need to step up all the time, period.
Yes.
I mean, like, so a lot of time men use the fact that they work outside of the home or whatever. Come home, I'm tired. You're supposed to. No. When you're raising kids and you're raising a household, it's all hands on deck. For
That's
at
right.
least 18 years, you're trying to get them off to college, right? So you're in it for 18 years. So, I don't like roles, societal roles, marital roles, any of those. If something needs to be done, do it. Because if you were in the
That's
house
right.
by yourself, you would have to do it anyway. So just go ahead and do
That's
it.
right.
I never babysat my kids. How can you babysit your own kids?
How can you babysit your own kids, right?
That's the dumbest thing ever. People, you babysit?
So
No, I'm not babysitting. I did that when I was a teenager. Now I'm taking care of my child.
That's right.
So I did whatever, right? I got up. I made the kids breakfast. I bathed them, got them ready. And then as I went off, the kids got dressed for school. They went and sat at their desk, and I went out the door. And then my wife came in and did whatever it is that she needed to do. She needed that time. I needed that time because I needed to bond with the kids because we weren't really together as much, right?
That's right. That's right.
But you get in whatever you can fit in. You do whatever needs to be done. It's not a role. And it's just, as I'm working with couples, I'm trying to get people out of the role. It's not that, like Jacob said, the wife sat down. It wasn't time for her to make your plate anymore. It was time for you to just realize that she's not there to always serve you, right? There's nothing wrong with you getting up and putting some food on the plate, and that shouldn't become an argument because you did that. So it's just
Right.
it's so much growth that needs to happen as an individual. A lot of the work that we do is trying to do what Jacob just mentioned, perspective. We have the wrong perspective. It's inward perspective. Oh, I feel this way. And if I said this, you should see it this way. No, that's not it. You have to look at it from the other person's point of view. That's how you can get a good understanding about what's going on. So
That's right.
Jacob, you're like the that I know there's no perfect person, but I couldn't have you as a client because you're doing everything right.
God bless you, man. I appreciate that compliment.
Yeah, you are truly doing the work and the perspective, the mindset, the intention. I mean, these are just a lot of things that we actually teach. And then just listen to you, and I'm just like, wow, this is what
Yes.
this is what a healthy relationship look like. So when you look in the mirror and you look at your wife, you know that you're covered and you're healthy. And then
Yes.
What's your daughter's name? Rosalie?
Yes, that's your name, Rosalie.
Yeah, Rosalie. That's all she's gonna see. She's gonna see nothing but love, right? Because that's
Right.
what you're expressing. So God bless you, man. I just love hearing you talk and the way that you interact with your wife and how the Lord is speaking through you and how you guys are just coming together. That's what a happy legendary relationship looks
Yes.
like.
Yes, and I'm with you, Jason. I'm with you. Here's what I love about this. Jeannie and I have been married for 25, going on 26 years. In the beauty of what Jacob and Haley have created, they're 19 years ahead, of where Jeannie and I were, because it took us time. We both came into the relationship broken. We were both Christians, but we both came into the relationship broken and maybe truly didn't understand the value of the gift that we had been given. At the same token, had we not gone through those experiences, how could we help people as effectively as we do? So what I love about Jacob and Haley and their story and their relationship and their testimony, to me, it's a beautiful example of acceleration and where they are. And I do believe they are going to go out and they are going to teach people their age and younger the value of a healthy marriage, because we really need a reinvestment worldwide, but in our country, in strong, healthy relationships and marriages and families. Mm-hmm. So, I'm looking forward to you guys doing that. And you guys are both welcome back on the program anytime. We need to have this group, just you guys, back together another time as well. We're coming up pretty close to a hard break because I have a couple other shows I have to do. So I hate to cut this short, and I'm very sorry. I'm going to make some notes so the next time we get back together, we can talk about some things. Here's something I want to ask you, Jason. I've already asked Jacob, and I'll ask him again, but I'm going to give you 3 choices. Tell me which one you would choose to be out of the 3, okay? Mm-hmm. We have a cowboy, a pirate, or a samurai. Which one of those would you choose to be?
Probably the samurai.
Yeah. Tell us. Tell us why. Tell us why.
I think the samurai would be more inward thinking, mm-hmm. more calm, more reserved. And if I need to attack, I could, but I don't necessarily have to. But if need be, I'm that person.
I love that. I picked the samurai as well. That's why I was so jacked.
Oh.
But then, Jacob in one of the programs, you picked the cowboy, right?
Yes, sir. I picked the cowboy.
And he turned me upside down on why he picked the cowboy. It's like, holy cowboy! What? I love it.
I picked the cowboy. A cowboy learns how to live off the land. However, a cowboy knows he cares for his cattle. He cares for what he's herding. A cowboy reminds me of a pastor, and I care for people, and I want to see them flourish. And we herd people not in a way of. Put it this way, people are already being herded. It's what direction are they being herded into?
That's right.
Off a cliff, or are they being herded into into flourishing in life? So I see, that's why I picked the cowboy. And I know there's just a call in our lives, and now particularly what I'm really, my wife and I are getting into now is because I just got a new job, and I just know that God's calling me to something else, to start something else, and I want to do that as well. And pretty much it came into that we need to teach couples, and I'm believing that there's going to be a new wave, a new generation of great marriages coming.
Yes,
I think in the past with our parents, and there's it's almost like a flux of kids with separate homes, dads not in the homes, and the government stepping in to be the dad. Or I've overheard some people saying, "Oh, well, in certain situations, well, you could get a lot more money if he wasn't in the house." And it's like, My
I've
God.
heard that too. Yeah.
Here they are trying to keep us down when it's like, I don't want a government handout. You shouldn't want a government handout. And the thing is, those things are there or should be there for a hand up.
Mm.
And so that way you
That's a
no
good word.
longer need to be the tail. No, you no longer need to be the the one getting the loan or receiving the loan, but the one giving it, and with no
Yes.
strings attached. And I I, I just have this feeling like there are going to be some mighty kingdom couples in this next generation, because I'm already seeing it. I'm seeing it with my friends around us,
Yes.
and I'm seeing it by us saying, you know what? I'm starting work at this time. I'm ending work at this time. I am no longer putting my family on the altar of sacrifice and just
Right.
drawing those hard lines. And I tell you, I started doing that. I'm starting at this time. I'm ending at this time. Lord bless it. May I do more in less time. And he did.
Mm.
And it just, you talked about acceleration. Like that's exactly what it was. Accelerating us in our maturity, but also accelerating, blessing the work of our hands. So that because we honor our time with the Lord, we honor our time with one another. We honor our family time. And if honestly, if I'm working hard and I have abundance of wealth and I don't spend it with my family, then what's it all for?
What's it all for? That's right.
Not.
Man, we're I'm selfish on this particular episode. I'm loving it, guys.
So am I.
This is this has been awesome, dude. I think Jason and I both, man, we're loving what you're putting down, brother.
Yep.
Loving what you're putting down.
I appreciate
All
it,
right,
man.
so-
Yeah,
And it's
y'all
not
can,
even going to be younger couples or couples your age. It's going to be some older couples too, because remember,
yes.
people are
Yes.
always watching. Whether they say
Yes.
anything or not, they're always watching.
absolutely.
That is such a
Well,
good word.
yeah, y'all can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at I am Jacob Gomez. You can find me on Facebook also under Jacob Gomez. But just be looking out. We are going to start something. And Quincy, Jason, thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all so much for stepping on the battlefield, and it's time that I join the battlefield with y'all.
Yes,
And
sir. And
my wife and I. So appreciate y'all so much.
this goes without saying, Brother Jacob, but whatever I can do to help you get something started, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I'm a
you
wealth
just live
of
down the
resources,
street.
so yeah, for sure.
Yes. I mean, you just live down the street from me, so let me know, what it is that we can do. So that would
Absolutely.
be your closing. And look, I'll throw in the show notes when this comes out how to contact you. And Brother Jason, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show again, and definitely looking forward to getting you and Miss Tina Marie back on the show with Jeannie and I. Your parting words, and then how can people get in touch with you, and then I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Sure. Parting words: be the man you were destined to be. Don't try to be anything
Yes.
else other than who God designed you to be. Just stand up and
Yes.
be it. Don't run from your calling. Just stand firm in it and know that God has you and you're in good hands, and just be strong in the person that you are. As long as you keep faith first.
Yes, that's such a good word. Guys, these episodes never let me down. I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
so-
Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, guys. I hope you listen to that episode again, and the next time you listen to it with a pen and paper, because there was a lot packed into that episode. And selfishly, I probably got the most out of it than anybody, even more than you, my fine listener. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, the email address is quincy@mvsmpodcast.com. Wait a minute. I got to bring Jason back on real quick.
Okay.
I didn't get your I didn't have you put out there how people could get in touch with you.
Oh, okay, great. Real quick. Legendaryrelationship.com. You can get to everything. You can get to our book, our podcast, everything. So it's legendaryrelationship.com. And then we have a 20-question emotional intelligence type of questions. So you can get that there too. So just to help jumpstart you on your way to enlightenment.
That is great. Make sure you go to legendaryrelationship.com and check out that questionnaire and all the resources. Take advantage of all the resources they have there, and check out the podcast.
And also, I'm sorry, just our social media is at Legendary Relationship on all platforms.
You got it. You got it. That is perfect. And I'll get it fit in the show notes just to make it easier for everybody. But I strongly encourage you to go check out the work that they're truly doing God's work. And I say that because, we had a great conversation. I might even link to our first episode together so they can enjoy that, as a quick reference as well. And you will see more to come from Jason and Tina Marie on this podcast. So thank you, Brother Jason. Great to have you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, that's it. Make sure you email Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com. Go check out quincymoran.com and grab some of our apparel since this podcast has made an impact in your life. And that is the way you can go out and you can create that ripple effect. You can affect other men's lives in a very positive way. I just got this shirt made here. This is a gym shirt because it's big and bulky. And it says, now is the time to change your life. It's got the signature logo on the back, like you can see up in the corner, along with many other shirts that are going to be thought-provoking for guys to come up and ask you questions. It happens to me in the gym. And if you sit there and say, I don't want anybody to come up and talk to me in the gym, Mick, I don't care if you do or not. Look, you're here, and we're helping you, and you need to go pay it forward. It is the law of reciprocity. So go out there and get it done. But that is all for now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. For Jacob Gomez, for Jason Scott, I'm Quincy Moran, a.k.a. the Q-Dog, and this is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.